What is up?
Ooh, hey.
Hey, what is good? We are official. We are official live.
Nice. Nice. Let me make sure my sound is all good. I don't want no echoey feedback. I also don't want you to hear every bit of my air conditioner in the back.
Oh, for sure.
Um,
Hold up, I'm
let's
gonna
see.
check one thing, and then
Okay.
we can get this ball rolling. I was just checking stuff. I had to check stuff, man. I had to make sure our sound was going.
Absolutely.
All right,
Speaking of sound going, does that sound okay? Am I a little too high or
there you go. That sounds good.
okay? And maybe I shouldn't have the things directly in my face. But let's see. Like, yeah, KB.
Nah, no, I got a couple of people in there, which
Okay.
is all good. Welcome to the Baseline Chronicles. You know what I'm saying? KB and Erica. That's what we do. This is a music lovers podcast. So yeah,
We love talking about music. I don't think there's any other person I've met in the history of histories that has the same enthusiasm and passion for a lot of the same music as I have is KB. So this
yeah,
is where we like to just get together and let the music meet the minds and make do.
yeah. And I I think the bigger thing is that what I like about like what I'm saying, our whole goal with this show was to like really have like music appreciation versus it being um, you know, because I watch a lot of, I don't know if you watch reactions or reviews or whatever, but a lot of it is people look for the salacious, so they look for you to say something is trash or not good or give some critique or something, and it's like, and then it leads to the whole conversation of, oh, there's no good music, it all sucks, and then it's like, all right, well, if that's the case, why don't we give you some good stuff to listen to and introduce you to some stuff so that you're not in this space of like everything is bad, because it's not, and there's so much good music out there for people to enjoy. So um
Absolutely. There may be some hits out there now that you could hear that'll blow your mind. There may be some hits back in the day that you forgot were hits and bops and classics. I was Friday night on the way back from a show, had a young driver, young brother with glasses on and everything, looked like a nice upstanding young gentleman. What he had blasting? New Pollution by Beck. I was like, okay now, take me back to 96. Let's go.
yeah, yeah, I haven't, damn, that was off of
Odelay.
Odelay. Yeah, dude, that is such a good album, dude. Like, I caught on to Beck super late. Like, Beck had popped before I caught on to like how good his music was.
I remember it well, and that's why I said 96, because when it's good, you remember the exact
Yeah,
year and
you
time it
do.
came out. Like, oh, I remember it was hot and we was just about to go back to school. I think it was late summer of '96. I remember was watching MTV with my mama, and all of a sudden these young white gentlemen came on there with these suits, and this one
Mhm.
white gentleman with this big old fro. He was playing the bass hard,
Oh
playing it
yeah,
hard.
Buddy was getting it.
Justin Medell Johnson, later one of the 26 members of Nine Inch Nails. Um, but yeah, New Pollution was a cut. It was that video had so much energy, and they came out hard with that, and that
Yeah,
with that voice, you got a cigarette on it. I was like, yo, give me that. And that
yeah,
was one of those albums that introduced and warped my little mind into how expansive electronic music could be and how fun it could be.
yeah. Because you know what's funny about that song is that the musicality of it, like the drum sound that I don't know if it's a organ or what, but like something about it sounds old but new. Like there's these like the warmth and like the tonality of it sounds kind of old, but how he sings it and attacks the song was so new and like refreshing. You know what I'm saying? Like it was a totally different thing because like during that time it was interesting to see how like all of those artists once they talked about their influences it's like so that's how it synthesized into that sound because you know it wasn't necessarily these artists are just doing um rehashes or remakes of old stuff. They were being influenced by it but then internalizing it and then pushing out something that sounded fresh. And that album came out at a peak of that, you know.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
uh
Um,
oh no, I was gonna say I recently was talking to one of my friends about it. That because you were talking about like a young dude listening to uh, back the old, you know. I saw some young kids really into the Keisha Cole love song. Love that song. And I was
mhm.
like, how did that not that it's a bad thing, I think it's super cool. I want to know how that reached them. Like how did they, you know what I'm saying, like connect with that song? Because what I realized is I started looking, it was at a lot of like high school, junior high dances, which is hilarious, you know, that they reached back for that song. So
I just first of all, that is a classic.
yeah.
And we were doing big black variants at the den, and all of a sudden broke out into a love sing along during one of the games. It is a classic.
Yeah.
Um, I just posted because I saw it on TikTok, and it reminded me of back in the day before we had cell phones, how we used to entertain ourselves
Hmm.
by actually just turning on the radio and singing, or if we had a CD that we couldn't stop playing or a tape that we was loving, when the cousins come over, go ahead and play it. And
Yeah.
so it's when the big cousin singing lead and the little cousins in the back doing backup, and they were doing Jodeci, My Heart Belongs to You. And I said, what a classic.
Oh, that is a classic. That is a
Okay.
classic. That's one of mine. All right. So there was this whole debate for a little bit. Who was it for you? Was it Jodeci or was it Boys to Men?
It was Jodeci for me.
Okay.
Because I was already too clean cut in doing everything that was expected. And I
Yes.
wanted the other side. Jodeci came to me at a time where Casey and them dressed like and looked like all the little boys in special ed that I had a crush on.
Oh, oh, that drip is wild, G. That Jodeci drip, I know them niggas had to be hot the way they wore leather. And they wore baggy leather. Like it wasn't even.
Okay.
I was like, dog, but no, Jodeci. Yeah, they had that edge, but I'm gonna keep it real with you. Boys to Men has some good songs. Jodeci to me, like Boys to Men. I think it was the homie Rudy who said this. He was like, I feel like Boys to Men. was who your parents wanted you to like, and Jodeci was who you actually liked. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like, um, so I don't know. I think that um honestly, I think Jodeci had better songs. And that's understanding who wrote for Boys to Men and who worked with Boys to Men. But I
Yeah.
think that, man, Jodeci honestly transformed R&B male groups. Like everybody followed their lead after that. Like they weren't pop. They weren't like everybody's like New Edition. New Edition gave the blueprint for a boy band, like a boy group, like five guys, each one has a theme, a character, da da da. That started
Yeah.
with really with New Edition. And that prototype has been used over and over and over and over and over again. Jodeci is the prototype for um honestly where R&B landed now. Like they were the prototype for um yeah, they'll sing love songs, but there's a little bit of grittiness to them, a little bit of aggressiveness to them. Um, they, they wrote about stuff in a different way, but they could play their instruments. They could, you know what I'm saying? Like they
Mhm.
were a different type of R&B, I don't think that people realize like, you know, I think a lot of post groups were like really following more of that lead than anything. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Maurice Starr was a genius with his casting method at this point.
Mhm.
Hence the reason that New Edition evolved into New Kids on the Block once he had the formula down and knew how to start selling records and how to market and position them. And then
And
after that, we get a breath of fresh air, which is Jodeci. I
yeah,
mean, New Kids on the Block, don't get me wrong. We went to Ventures. We was Poe, okay? And I had the New Kids on the Block nightgowns with a different color piping, one for every day of the week. I
and
love them, okay? They
mhm,
got me hooked marketing wise, but the
mhm,
boys could sing. And when I went back and I was watching Dirty Pop on Netflix, I just started it.
mhm,
Made me say they was all going back in the songbook and singing our daddy's songs
mhm.
and harmonizing on that to learn how to get the vocals down. What
Yeah,
happened with Jodeci? They straight out the church, baby.
yeah, yeah,
Family, both brothers, two sets of brothers, straight out
mhm.
the church.
Yeah, and that was the other thing too, is like if you really look at the breakdown of like if you look at the breakdown of like boy bands, that dude Lou Pearlman, the reason why he ended up making boy bands is because he owned his own like flight charter business. And he was like, who are these young dudes? It was New Kids on the Block. He was like, who are these young dudes that's chartering a flight? Like, how can they afford that? And then his little creepy self looked up who they were and was like, oh, I can do that. And he
Mhm.
created, more boy bands and stuff like that. He created BSB, he created NSYNC, all of
Mhm.
them. And it's just that, and you can see their influence. That you could tell that AJ is influenced by Joe DeCG. The way that he sings, he's clearly influenced by that type of R&B. Like the way that JC sings in Sync, he's
Yes.
clearly influenced by Jodeci. I mean, they sat up there and covered one of their songs on the Christmas album. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
like it's like they absolutely, you know, transformed it. And shout out to like Donnie Wahlberg. Any interview he's done, he's talked about how New Edition. He's like, there would be no New Kids on the Block if it wasn't for New Edition. He was like, we were just, and he said it, and people got
Absolutely.
like offended by him saying this, and he was like, no. He's like, Maurice Starr realized that if he got a bunch of white boys that could do the same thing, so you got to remember, some of them grew up around like. like Donnie Wahlberg grew up around black folks. Like he knew
Right.
what was up. You know what I'm saying? So he never ever he was like I've always given them the props because we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. And
Yep.
people realizing like, oh, if we put a white face to it, then we can make more money and da 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 da. And so that's what Marie Star did.
Mm-hmm.
And so Donnie has always said like, nah, y'all got it twisted. Like, no, the real prototype. And people were like, no. Then people tried to argue with him. They're like, no, what about the Jackson 5? It's like the Jackson 5 were boys in a band, but they were not a boy band. Like that is the like the Osmonds were a family band, but they were not a boy band. There wasn't these
Right.
archetypes. There wasn't these, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't this strategic marketing behind specific things like that. Like if you look at the Osmonds or if you look at any of those previous groups, they clearly had a front star that they were, you know what I'm saying? Like it
Yep.
wasn't really about that, you know, like it's just like, no, they are the the prototype for what is ended up being, you know, quote unquote boy bands or whatever.
Absolutely. And they did quite the job of taking music from, as I said, they started off as gospel singers. They did quite the job of taking the music from the church to the bedroom.
Oh yeah.
When we're introduced to them in 1991 with Forever My Lady. So you're having my baby. And it means so much to me. In the period of family values, on on George Bush's, Daddy Bush's internet, I'm saying
Mhm.
this. Yo, like they set it up. They were sexy
Mhm.
without pushing the envelope too hard until we got to the hotel, the show, the after party, all that, you know. It
Yeah.
was
I remember when I used to watch the BET like countdown or whatever, like not 106 in Park. Like this is before 106 in Park, right? This is way
mhm.
back in the day. And you remember they had that song, I Wanna Freak You?
Yes.
And then that he's like, I wanna freak you, baby, in every freaking way, every freaking day, and every freak like you know. And my mom was like, "What are you?" She was like, "They really letting this play?" And I was like, "Yeah,
Because that was the time when it was
yeah,
like, oh, wow, this is going on. But it was actually for them saying freaking like that
yeah,
and singing it so every we were at the concert,
yeah,
me and my bestie, and we were singing it with aplomb with 20,000 more folks.
yeah,
And
yeah,
it felt so good
yeah,
as grown ups singing it. But, you know, we was like 9, 8.
yeah." Too
These was,
young to be singing it.
you know, the songs we got in trouble singing. Um, but on top of that, Freaking You was so classic. It's such a classic, booty
Mhm.
loving, hugging,
Yeah,
sexy, full of animalistic but sexy, sensual tension. That it is the closing song of JoJo's Fantastic Adventure, the anime.
hmm
I, I was. It
I
was about 6 months ago when I found this out, and I asked my best friend because she collects Jodeci vinyls. I
mm,
said, "What do you want for your birthday, sister? You have this one?" Because I was like, "Is this a real Jodeci one?" It actually said Jodeci and it had JoJo on it. I was like, "Is this a gag to have this whole ass anime character on a Jodeci R&B?" I know it's imported from Japan. Did they
yeah,
make a mistake? What is this? Is this real? She said, "No,
yeah.
it is very real."
That's hilarious.
They used the song in the outro for this anime show. This is how freaking good. And when you get to the ending, you see the credits. Who's it written by? Donald D. Great Jr. I was like, yes,
Yeah,
Devontae's government name.
yeah.
Say it. Get it, man, this shot. I loved it.
Yeah, Jodeci was on a whole different level. Whole different level. Whole Devontae Swing once again is another person that people don't really know, but like they should. That dude is so incredibly talented. Unfortunately, his ego got in the way of really helping like these amazing artists. Like he essentially found Missy and Timbaland and like started that whole crew of artists that came out of like the Virginia area. Besides, obviously Teddy Riley's from there, Pharrell is from there, whatever. But
Yeah.
he's the one that had the camp that had the dope Tweet. I think Tweet, Timberland, Magoo, and Missy all were with Devontae's crew. Like his young people that were coming up. Like when you have an ear that good, like that's talent to see that type of talent. Like to see that talent is a whole different talent, you know?
For sure. And coming off of New Jack Swing and into the mid to late 90s sound with this slow, sensual, sexy Devontae's Skinamax R&B beats
Mm-hmm.
are so sultry and succulent that they are the extra voice in the song.
Yeah,
They are the
absolutely.
extra. They are the extra instrument. They have a pulse and they beating. You beat with it. You wind your hips with it. And
Yeah.
I definitely think you wouldn't have the weekend if you didn't have Devontae.
I was just about to say that. I was like, when people are like, "Oh, the new R&B did it," I was like, "No, you don't understand. They're taking certain sounds from old R&B, but it doesn't sound like how you're used to them. But they're still using certain sonically. They're using certain things that I'm like that warbly, like low, slinky, sexy guitar and like keys underneath and um this like almost like trap snare but a little bit softened. Like it's not that they're not incorporating that. Like that's what I was trying to get at earlier, is that like I feel like a lot of their sound is they shifted R&B, and not just the content but like the sound.
Yeah.
And I don't think they get enough credit for it, because it's like, the like I said, to me, the Bryson Tillers and all of them, the Weekend, the you know uh who else was on that, Brent Fayez,
Black.
Black, yeah, like all of them, they have this, like, they, to me, that is the modern day Jodeci. I hate to
Yeah.
say it like that. I'm not saying they are Jodeci, because I know how old heads get. I get it. But like what I'm saying is like what Jodeci was to us is what they are to this generation, and I get it. Like I get when people are like, no, they don't even talk about love anymore. If you want to hear that, then go listen to Tank. Go listen to go listen like these mother what uh what is his name? Babyface, what, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, released an R&B album with all the R&B girlies doing exactly what people wanted. And it's
Yeah.
like, dude, like there are options for that. There's another dude, I forgot his name. My mom loves him. I think his name is October something, or
October in London.
yes. Like if you want that, he makes that type of love song type of, if you John Legend, like if you
Yeah.
like, there is
The
that,
traditional R&B type.
yeah, that traditional R&B that does exist, like,
Mhm.
and there's current artists doing that. You could even take it back to like old soul style. You have the Sacred Souls,
Okay. Yeah.
who do like stuff that is very much late 60s 70s style R&B, but they're current dudes, they're early you know what I'm saying, like there. See, this is why y'all need us. Y'all probably didn't know about the Sacred Souls, but there, if you're into that type of stuff, these artists do exist. It's
Mhm.
just that you keep focusing on the ones that are the young artists, quote unquote new artists, that get a lot of attention, and you're not doing enough research. Like, you know, yeah, there's new artists out there with that traditional R&B sound, but for the younger generation, yeah, they're gonna take to what is their Jodeci, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely, these sacred souls. I'll be, everybody. If y'all don't know who these sacred souls are, you might have heard the song "Can I Call You
Oh, you
Rose"
Rose, yeah.
over the airwaves recently. I'll be sitting around my house about, "Can I call you a cab?
Yeah,
'Cause you're mean and you're rude and you sing." I be in here just jamming. I love that song. But yeah, it's true. Layla Hathaway has a new album out.
yeah.
And you want to talk about somebody who bridges the old and the new with
Hmm.
a vocal Bible voice? There you go.
Yeah.
Layla is still out there. Go listen to some old school Michelle Farrell.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like there's greats out there. So
Or
um
if you, or if she can become uncanceled, Chrisette Michelle still is releasing music, good music actually, and she's doing that style of stuff. We still ain't over her performing at that inauguration. Apparently, we haven't forgiven her. She's
we went
still.
ahead and we gave Jasmine all of her the flowers that
We
Chrisette was gonna
did,
get to.
we did, and I love me some Chrisette Michelle. I ain't even gonna front. I ain't
Mhm.
even gonna front. I love me some Chrisette Michelle.
The
Like
girl still
I was
good.
like, I don't know why you would do that. Your career is not strong enough to withstand that, but she wasn't big enough to just be. Oh, I'm being real. I'm being real.
If she
Like,
would have tried it now, maybe not so much blowback, but still blowback. You
oh
think?
no, there were no, no, no. It would be honestly, it'd probably be even more blowback because we've seen what he's done. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what are you doing? But with like back then, it was like we didn't even, well, we knew, but it wasn't confirmed of what he would do. And it was like, what are you doing? Like a lot of people caught themselves out there for a moment or whatever. And it was just like whatever. But Chrisette Michelle is still releasing really good music. I'm sorry. Like she's still, I think she's a great artist. Same with Daniel Caesar. He had a great
Yep.
ass album, and his dumb ass sat up there and asked people to cancel him. Once again, you're not big enough for that, bro. Like these bugs was doing stuff, and I'm like, the people who worry about getting canceled is so wild, fam. Because it's like, oh, they trying to cancel me. Like, no, if you're making 20 million a year, if you're touring and it's sold out, they're not canceling you.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? But if you're struggling to get stuff on the charts and you got to do a lot of extra legwork to get your stuff moving, I'm going to say this much: stay out the way sometimes. That was something that she didn't even need to do. Like, it's so wild. I was like, that was something she didn't like. Same with Daniel Caesar. Like, you caping for a shorty. You really don't need to cape for this shorty, G. Like, we don't even know her or like her like that. Like, you don't need to cape for this. It's going to impact you more than her.
Yeah.
You know, he still, his last album was good, though. Hey, I'm
Right.
looking for music, G. This
Absolutely.
album was really good.
He
So,
the one brother that I think could cover Jeff Buckley.
oh, yeah.
So I have a lot of faith in Daniel Caesar. He'll keep learning
Okay,
his lessons
wait,
and making this music.
wait. I think there's another artist that could cover Jeff Buckley. Maybe two. Maybe two. I'm gonna give them to maybe three. Maybe three.
Okay.
I'm gonna give them to you. Miguel.
Yes.
Miguel could cover Jeff Buckley.
I,
I
I
need
have to say yes. Yes.
Miguel. Hey, bro, I know you watching. Hey, release an album, G. I'm starving.
The last like EP, yeah, you're right. It is not enough. And him with the suspension and all that, forget the suspension. Go back to having a pretty voice.
I asked remember when I brought him up and he was like, "Oh, he just had an EP." No, he didn't. That came out 2 years ago.
2 years. Oh shoot.
That
Bro, get
came out.
up, bring it
Yeah,
back and get off of the suspension. It's scaring the hoes.
yeah. You are scaring the hoes with that shit. Hey, stop that. I would. I think Miguel is so fire, but yeah, I need him to come out with another album. All right, another one that I think could do it is Kyle Dion. You know Kyle Dion. He's a dope. He's a dope. He has great vocals. He has a sense of humor about him. Um, but I think he has the chops to do like a good Jeff Buckley cover. And then the final one is Steve Lacy. Steve
Yeah.
Lacy.
I'd like to hear him tool around. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd like to hear. There's a couple of Jeff Buckley songs I could hear him
Yeah,
playing around with.
yeah. And granted, Jeff Buckley, like we said, has probably one of the best voices, you know. But um, yeah, those would be. I think there's somebody that we could get to hop on that. But Daniel Caesar is a good choice for that too. I do think he's really talented. So
I'm just sitting here, like, rolling my head around their voices on some deep cuts. Like,
mhm.
oh, I'm sorry. It's a Sketches for My Sweetheart, the Drunk song that I could actually hear Miguel's voice on because I think it would be beautiful. It's got a haunting kind of melody.
Oh yeah,
He is young and handsome, so
yeah,
very
he would sound good in that song. He did a cover of a Red Hot Chili Pepper song, Porcelain.
nice.
And was it Porcelain? I think it was. I'm pretty sure it was Porcelain. Um, which Red Hot Chili Peppers, who just closed out the Olympics,
Uh-huh.
um, for because the Olympics is going to be in LA, so it's they had Red Hot Chili Peppers close it out.
Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick,
Yeah,
the song that I couldn't remember the name of is "Nightmares by the Sea." I think Miguel would do an excellent cover on it, just because of the haunting vocal. But now
yeah,
that I'm going back looking at all the track listing for Sketches, I would honestly love to hear Daniel Caesar cover Vancouver, not just because he's from Canada,
I was
but
gonna say, is it
because
because he's from Canada? I was like,
a no, just because it's such a quick, punchy 3-minute romance
hmm
of a song that I think he could kill it. He would
yeah,
kill it. And Miguel would definitely murder. Oh, I'm sorry, maybe that's the wrong word. He would maliciously make love to Everybody Here Wants You. I think he would sound beautiful
yeah,
singing.
he would sound really good on it. He's one of those dudes that like I normally he's kind of like T Pain, where at first you're like, I don't want you to do a cover album. Then when he did it, I was like, that was really good. Like,
Right, right. You want
like
to hear him come with some newness and some originality, but you know he worked the classics.
yeah, it wasn't hokey, it wasn't corny, he nailed them. And I feel like Miguel would do something like that. Like he's so creative, his voice is so good, that he would rock a good covers album. But I want an original album from him first. But like him with some Jeff Buckley, yeah, that's a good that'd be some good stuff right there.
Miguel, I know
He's
the
a big
first
fan.
one didn't work out,
Yeah.
so I'm also divorced, and
Is he divorced?
yeah,
Really?
they didn't work out.
Oh,
I'm not smiling at that. I hate hearing that a union between a man and wife didn't work out. However, I am an available bride.
I heard he's magnetic when you meet him in person. I've heard that from multiple people.
Don't you just feel that when you look at him?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like when you hear his voice, he's just so enchanting.
Yeah.
I hate that I was in Shanghai when he did the Victoria's Secret show. I wanted to use every connection and duck out of work so bad. Fuck them kids today. I gotta go see tennis and Miguel. Let's go.
And Miguel.
But and also I just want to quickly say, um, I growing up when I did, and I'm going to talk about Jeff Buckley on shows whenever I can because I'm me.
Hmm
Oh, the poor man dies. I'm 15 years old. I'm thinking, oh man, but forget Jared Leto. Who was this guy? So
Yeah.
now the generation of Gen Zers that are doing that now are all over on Reddit with their Jeff Buckley stuff.
Oh,
I thought it
really?
was okay. Now, for me, I used to have to send postage and handling and checks to people in Australia to send me bootleg tapes that would sometimes have cute little trinkets in them.
Yeah.
or like collect memorabilia that way. I had a gigantic list of people from ICQ all over the world who were Jeff Buckley fans because
Yeah.
I owned a page. These kids go on Reddit now. And one of the things I just saw, you know how they love misquoting or
Yeah.
misattributing quotes to people? I just recently saw, "You're a fart, Jeff Buckley." And I said, damn it, these children have gone too far. Or not. For the culture, I don't mind it. This is long as the awareness is there. I mean, he
Hey.
was kind of wild. They got the YouTubes to prove he was very funny.
Yeah. Well, I'm more impressed that people are connecting with Jeff Buckley than anything, especially a younger generation. Like, I'm always amazed when younger people are listening, because that was always one of my biggest things, is like, listen to your inspiration's inspiration. Like, like, who do they listen to, so you can listen to that and go and learn about that and understand that, and get into different types of music, like, and so, like, it's always interesting when they do grasp on, like, one of my nephews was like, I was like, "Oh, what have you been listening to?" He's like, "Oh, like 90s rap." And I'm like, "Oh, well, what have you been listening to, like, specifically?" And he was like NWA, Ice Cube, like, he was going back to, like, and I was like, "Dude, like, that's really cool that you're going back to that, that era, because, like," and I get it, especially with hip hop, because it is the sound of hip hop is the sound of that generation. What I mean is that for rock, because the staples of rock are that instrumentation of, like, drum, bass, guitar, maybe keys, maybe a little bit electronic every once in a while, whatever. But that core is always the same. But with hip hop, because it's based on sampling and all of that type of stuff, the sound of that generation oftentimes is defined by the influence of the producers of that time. So, like, it's very stuck in it's time. You get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to make, like, it's hard to make a rap album that can transcend multiple generations. Like,
Absolutely.
it's hard. Like,
Yeah.
um I like current albums that have done that. To me, the last album that I've heard from maybe Gen Z to a boomer, like, be able to digest, is To Pimp a Butterfly.
Mm.
That's the last hip hop album where it was like everybody had a song on there that they liked. Like, a lot of people knew. Do you get what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it is very difficult to create a hip hop album that is transcendental of that specific era. I think there are a few that have done it. I think Wu-Tang has done it. I think I think um honestly, I think Jay-Z has done it. I'm not saying it with every album, but there is an album that I could see. To me, I think, yeah. Um I'm trying to think of other people who have done something that has been of their time and transcend that time. Um and yeah, it's just hard to do that with hip hop.
It's hard to do it. I think most of Speaker Box and Love Below attempts it. There's just
Mhm.
a handful of songs that sound dated.
All right,
Um,
people are gonna hate me. When I was younger, when I first heard that album, I was on the Andre 3000 wave, and then going back and listening to it, I was like, I like Big Boys. Like, 3Ks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I love
okay.
Andre Three Stacks, but I'm people gonna shoot me for it, but like, yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't think you should be shot for your opinion. It makes sense, especially if your
I'm
taste
sorry.
change.
His shit was kind of hokey to me.
And I
Hey,
can understand that. It's
yeah,
lovey dovey. You the prototype. We know. Come on, prototype. The chances of you finding who the prototype is. They got what they got out there now. A website where you put all of your criteria in for your prototype, and you'll see that you got a 0.00001.9586 chance of finding that person.
and I actually like the prototype. I
But
that
it's a
song,
beautiful song.
that is such a great song. But
Mhm.
like, I I like when they released Roses as a single. I was like, nah, y'all done lost the plot. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was like,
It's
y'all
a
done
fun
lost the
sing
plot.
along anytime, but you right about that. Now,
I'm
hey y'all, as far as hey y'all's indelible mark on hey y'all's indelible mark on the world
all
stands.
right, all right, all right, all right, all right.
This ain't no Polaroid picture, but I will shake it.
Pick it like a Porter Beyonce's and Lucy Lou's. Get on the floor. I mean, it's a fun song. I get it, but like looking at that body of work and looking at they, I don't know. I liked their I loved Stankonia. Like I loved
Oh yeah.
like um Quimini. Like I liked, yeah. To me, it was honestly it was too pop focused for me.
Mhm.
It was too poppy for me on the Love Below part. I love Three Stacks though. That's the reason why I was a little underwhelmed by it, to be quite honest. Like going back and listening to it and being out of the hype machine of it. Yo,
Yeah.
Big Boy got off on that album. Like, yeah,
Big boy show up every time.
yeah.
Every time. Uh for me, next to Project Pat, he was one of my southern rap goats. So
Mm.
he do work. He do a
Let's
lot of work and a lot of that stuff. You go back and listen 5, 10 years later and say, "All right, Andre Patton, you all right?"
yeah, yeah. The real quick, who are your southern rap favorites?
Mystical.
Mm.
Sorry about all the bad stuff, but come
Yeah.
on, Mystical's pure energy, and you know that man ain't lying. All that stuff he talk about in songs, he did. Pussy crook, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Being a
Yeah.
pussy crook, you see what
Yeah.
he did. He told
Yeah.
the truth.
Yeah.
So he's one of my goats. Truth be told, him doing that Mark Ronson song on Saturday Night Live will go down in history as one of my all time. Whenever I'm having a blue day, turn that on. That gets me hype.
Okay, that I did say that with and it's Bruno Mars and his crew as the band.
Right? It's bouncing back. That's why they
Yeah,
just going
yeah,
hard.
yeah. And they the
You
back
ain't me, bounce back.
they
Ooh,
nailed that performance. I was actually watching SNL that night. Like I
yeah.
actually was like I was chilling out, just a little smoke, and I was like, man, I'm at the crib. I was like, oh, Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson is on SNL. I didn't even know. I was just chilling. And then they were like Mystical was the second performance because they did Uptown Funk and then they did the
Mm-hmm.
Mystical one. And hey, that shit hit. Like that was actually that was a good song. That was a
Yeah.
good song. That was a good way to kind of reintroduce Mystical. I don't know what happened after that, but no, that was a good song.
So he is definitely up there for me, along with Project Pat. Project Pat just street pimping, just talking that talk, just church, just. And I'm not a street person.
Yeah.
You know, when I changed schools for a gifted program, I didn't expect that one of my classmates would be already initiated. And I was like, dang, so what you listen to, the heifer? What gets you
Mhm.
jazzed up? She was like, 3-6. I was like, okay then. Wow, I just got out of the Kojic church down the street. I don't know about listening to 3-6.
3-6.
Lord, if I, Lord, if I listen to him, will I be all right? Will you forgive me if I just this one time? Because I had
Okay.
already gotten to the point where on a Friday night, going to visit my cousins on the west side and hearing like gangster rap, I was like,
Mhm.
oh shit, this just feels creepy. Like this feels murdery. Like I don't want to get out the car. What is this? And so I was like, ooh, if I turn on 3-6, I'm just really gonna feel like a devil gonna fly out of nowhere. Demon gonna fly out of the gutter and shit. Little rats gonna have the horns and shit, gonna start stabbing me. Like, what's gonna happen? So
Well, like every age has music that like you're not supposed to be listening to, right? And I remember when 3-6 was that. Like there was like I remember older black people was not feeling because they're like, why is it 3-6 Mafia? Like why is it first off Mafia immediately? And this is like you gotta remember, like it's when it's when see this Project Pack 3-6 Mafia, like UGK was more pimpin' type of shit. Slim Thug was more a little bit of that hustler, gangster, pimp shit. You get what I'm saying?
right.
But 3-6, the difference is um the beats. It sonically sounded way darker than the stuff that do you get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
because like who I like from the South, my cousins were into like 3-6 and stuff like that, but that wasn't like my brother got me into the Ghetto Boys,
Nice.
and so like for the South, that was like I knew the Ghetto Boys primarily. That like
Yeah.
that's who I associated with like Southern rap besides Outkast, right?
Mhm.
And so like UG not UGK 3-6 when my cousins was into it, I remember like one of my cousins had just got his first car and he was like, yo, and you know how when your cousin you know how when you get your first car you want to drive to do anything, you don't care, you know what I'm saying? You just want to drive. And so
Mhm.
I remember he was like, oh, I got to run to the store. And all of his cousins like, we'll go with you. Like, because your cousin got, and then he was just bumping like 3-6. And I was like, man, like, and back then it would not like the people would have the Kenwoods and they, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
and so like,
Shocking.
and so like that whole sound, um, yeah, it was a little bit more ominous than what we were used to with gangster rap back in the day. Like, and when I say back in the day, like 4 years prior, like
Yeah.
gangster rap had evolved from, um, like I hate to say this, but like I don't know, NWA to me was not really menacing.
Right. We stopped. We the doc
Like,
the doc proved it. I mean, the biopic proved it.
like even back then, listening to them, I think it was just like I knew a lot of dudes that emulated their style, but it wasn't like you were like, ooh, these dudes is like, you know what I'm saying? With 3-6, you're like, nah, this is something a little bit different. You know what I'm saying? Like gangster rap is not it's not it's not like West Coast when it's couched in the street politics of gang culture.
Yeah.
This
There
gangster rap is no, ain't no gang. Like,
was okay.
like this is about business, my money, my whole, my da da da, my whatever, and hey, run it. Like they had a completely different sound. It was more menacing, and to me, it was just grittier. It was just grittier. So yeah,
Mhm.
I feel you on that. Like with 3-6, who's your other ones?
I
You had
was gonna say,
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, since you mentioned Ghetto Boys, Scarface, Man Cry is definitely one of my favorite songs of all time.
Yeah.
Talk about a creepy ass song with a
Mhm.
creepy ass video, but the song has such a point and cemented Scarface as one of those legendary storytellers. So if he is not in your top 50, Nate, your top 25.
Bro, Scarface needs to be in at least top 15. Stop playing. Stop playing. Stop
Okay.
playing. Scarface, I'm sorry. And anybody who wants to say anything different, go ahead. But like,
Watch the NPR. Pause us, watch the NPR. Come back.
yeah, like to paint a picture, like, man, I I was let me start with the Ghetto Boys. The song my mind is playing tricks on me, right?
Hmm.
And I remember that is the song that my brother introduced me to the Ghetto Boys with, right? Because there was a video for it. And
Yep.
he's like, so do you like get what this? He explained what the song meant, and he was like, and my brother, because I had a little cassette player with, and he would always like, he gave me Master P before Master P. He gave me Ghetto Boys. He gave me stuff before it really, when people were passing around tapes,
Hmm.
like, you know what I'm saying? So like, and so like, I just remember him like explaining to me like what it meant, and I listened to it, and honestly, Ghetto Boys is like, that is like, to me, they're like almost like a Southern Public Enemy. Like, they really tell the story of what's happening in the hood of the South,
Yeah.
for real, for real. Of like, here's what life is like. Here's what people who are living this life actually think about this system. Like, people reduced kind of Ghetto Boys into like, because they had Bushwick Bill, so they underestimated but they were talking about real stuff. I think Ghetto Boys is one of, like, to me, up there in the South rap pantheon to me.
And despite his height, Bushwick Bill again was one of them badass storytellers,
Hmm.
um, with a crazy background. And what was he, Jamaican by birth?
Is he Jamaican or Haitian? Jamaican?
Good, that's an excellent question. But it does, and I only bring this up because, yeah, Bushwick, because of, yeah, Kingston, Jamaica. He was born.
Okay.
And even though he was only 3'8", he was one of the best rappers to ever hold the mic.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had Scarface. Any of other Southern faves that you got?
Long live Pimp C.
Yes, that
Um,
was one of mine. That was one of mine. I was like, dude, like, yeah,
if you don't know who I'm talking about, go listen to that legendary verse on International Players Anthem
players
by
anthem.
UGK. And
Those,
listen to it immediately. Don't run.
yeah,
I mean, run,
or
and
go
go listen
listen.
to it. It's amazing.
He snapped on that. Oh my God, Pimp C snapped so hard on that verse. But he always did. His flow, G, is so.
His Big Pimpin' verse.
And that's what I was
Says
about
the
to
whole
say.
song.
I was about to say the Big Pimpin' verse. I was like, he ate up Jay. He ate up Jay's own song. Like, Pimp C, Ghetto Boys, that whole UGK. Like, I hate to say this, Meg Thee Stallion would not have her flow if it wasn't for them.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
and she acknowledges it, and I think it's an homage. I think it's a, what I'm saying, like a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think it's a, oh, she can't find her own thing. I think it's just I think it's really like an homage to that style, because the pockets that Pimp C would flow in is underrated. G, it's underrated, the pockets that Pimp C would find. And it's like, yeah, like, I think that, and like, he said slick shit that you're like, that's so fucking cool. Like you want to incorporate it into your own vocabulary, your own lexicon, like your own vernacular. Like you're like, I want to talk like that. Like every like the way that he would turn phrases, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
yeah, he would just flip phrases to where you're like, and like no, this is not a knock on anybody, but you can hear somebody like Lil Wayne or Drake, the way that they flip phrases, like words and stuff like that, it reminds me of Pimp C a little bit. Not that they sound like or anything like that, but the cleverness of some of that, I feel like that Houston style like that. I feel like some of that is from that.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, for me, I think it'd be Pimp C, like UGK, Ghetto Boys. I love me some Gangsta Boo, R.I.P.
For sure.
Um, obviously Outcast, but I'm gonna say this like Chameleonaire and Paul Wall. That was I remember when Chameleonaire came out, and I was like, damn, this buddy can really flow. Like he had a difference. He flowed a little bit differently to me. Like he didn't give full South rapper sound to me. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
His production did, but his own um, style reminded me of like a New York dude.
And that's probably one of the big reasons he was so accessible when he emerged on the scene for people too. And that's in his case something that's a testament to his celebrity and his, what he does, because he does it well.
Yeah,
But bless his heart, he made his money riding dirty and all that. Now he's doing bigger and better things behind the
yeah,
scenes in tech.
yeah.
Brothers in tech.
Yeah. Was everybody knows the story of Chameleonaire and how he helped like other rappers, right? Does everybody like people? All right, to viewer, listener, whatever. Here's what happened. The basically the uh record company, he did an audit on the record company, and he was like, "Yeah, you guys owe me money."
Mm.
He's like, "You owe me this amount." I forgot how much money. It was a lot of money that they owed him. And he was like an independent dude. Like he knew how to read. He's a clearly very intelligent young man, right? So like, so they're like, "Nah, we're." At first, they weren't gonna pay him, or they weren't gonna allow him to do the audit or whatever. And he's like, "No, like it's in my contract, I can do the audit." So he does the audit. He's like, "Actually, you owe me money." And then they were like, "Oh, well, we'll pay you for it or whatever." But, and he was like, "Yeah, you're going to pay me for it because if you don't, I'm going to tell every other artist to do an audit on you guys."
Okay.
And so they were like, "Well, we'll just give you." They was like, "Let's give this nigga this money because we are not about to deal with that." I think Nelly did it too. I think the other dude that kind of put him in check was Nelly. Was like, "Nah, I'm doing an audit." Anytime somebody hears audit, they everybody, if the IRS was like, "Hey, we want to audit you," you're immediately like, "Shit." So
Right.
if you got an artist that's smart enough to be like, "Nah, I'm gonna audit you," that means they already clued into something. Do you get what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
you're screwed. Like it's so. But yeah, those are the we're gonna have to do like a South playlist or something, like a Southern rap playlist. Like
I'm
yeah,
looking forward to that.
yeah. So I do want to do one more topic, and then we'll get into our playlist, and then we'll be
Okay.
done. So one of the things that we do talk about earlier, we were talking about like tossing out artists that you could listen to if you're looking for that type of old school R&B, traditional R&B sound. Is there any new music, new artists that you've been checking out, plugging into, um, that you've been really rocking with as a it don't even got to be new. Just is there something that has been piquing your ears that's refreshing lately? Let's put it like that.
Dang, that is a beautiful question. Um, what's been plugging my ears lately? I've been going back in the deep cut territory. I've
Hmm.
been uh re-exploring sounds and artists. So I'll just be very straight up. I have been on an old school Robert Palmer kick. Everything before the Simply Irresistible. And even then, that's good stuff on them albums. It's decent. They sold well for reasons. But we talking funky Robert Palmer. We talking about Blue Eyed Soul, uh, Little Feet Robert Palmer,
Yeah,
Sneaking
it's
Sally Through the Alley, Sailing Shoes, Hey Julia, 3-song combo at the
pre
beginning
'80s.
of the debut album.
Yeah,
Hmm?
pre '80s Robert Palmer before he started looking like a corporate lawyer.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
yeah, like people. I don't even think people know what his original, like what he originally sounded like. Like he essentially, I guess, you know, I think hopefully I'm remembering this right, but I think they came to him and was like, you need a refresher and you need a hit. Like you need
Yes.
to like
So what
like
had happened was his debut album comes out and it's decent, and he gets this nice contract with EMI Capital and all that stuff, and they got him. Um, but Clues is the album from 1980 that puts him on the map, and every kind of people is actually the first big single for him. So if you've been in a Denny's at 2 a.m., you've
yeah,
probably heard the song Every Kind of
every kind of
People
people.
at
Yeah.
some point. But it is a gorgeous marimba Caribbean type background influenced, Marvin Gaye influence, because that's one of his influences,
Influences, yeah.
um, type of song. But then the rest of the album, he starts dabbling into new wave. Gary Newman even features on it. He does a great cover of what is it? The freaking Wire song. I just got done. KB, I'm telling you, I was playlist. I Dream of Wires, he does a beautiful cover of Found You Now. He co wrote with Gary Newman, and it is a bop. It is a boppy new wave, 9 Inch Nails type of predecessor in the funky genre.
Mm.
Um, Johnny and Mary, come on. One of the most, I love that song. It's so gorgeous, that new wave track. Looking for Clues, that's a jaunty. Chris France from Talking Heads plays on that. And he returned the favor for Palmer because Palmer played percussion on Talking Heads Remain in Light. Clues, beautiful, jaunty cut. I love it. Great album. So, yeah, I just want to say that's a shout out. Robert Palmer Clues, 1980. You need to dig it. It's 31 minutes long. You won't regret it.
Mm. Mm. Like it. Um, man, I've only been listening to my running playlist to be quite honest.
Nice.
Um, but as far as like anything that's really been sticking with me, man, Jungle. Um, Jungle and K Tronada have been like the two things that I don't know. It's those two have been like kind of refreshing for me. Like Jungle has become one of my favorite, duos. Essentially, they're rubbing my. They don't sound like Daft Punk, but they're stroking my Daft Punk duo dance, not necessarily electronic, but like style of music or whatever. And it's just something about it that gives me like this energy. Like it makes me want to move and like what they've been doing with their videos has been dope with this last album cycle for Volcano, which is like you know back on 74 has been you know used in commercials, and you know, um, I don't know if that video was nominated for a VMA or whatever, but which, but anyways, yeah, like I was about to go into the VMAs because a lot of people was like, "What are you guys doing?" But then I was like, "It's the VMAs. Who gives a shit about the VMAs
Anymore, at least.
anymore?" You know what I'm saying? Like people, I couldn't believe people were up in arms. I'm like, no, empty. We barely like. Why does music video television doesn't exist anymore? So like, anyways, but yeah, Jungles. If you haven't seen the commercial, I mean, the commercial for Gap, they took the dancers from the video and used it in the Gap commercial. There's this
Nice.
dancer named Will West, who's like one of the main guys is the main guy in the video series, which is really cool. So it's very much like the album where it's connected, like the songs transition right into each other.
Nice.
And so they did that with the video. So they kept the same dancers, the same, and everything is one take. And it's a really cool concept. It's, they work with, you know, great artists, and I've just been enjoying that. And then Kate Renata has, I, I have not bumped into anything by Kate Renata that I don't love.
Yep.
I have loved everything that has come out, and anytime where I'm like, I don't know what I want to listen to, and I can put on Kate Renata, and it's like, all right, yeah, this is it. So I haven't been listening to like anything necessarily new. I did listen to the new Chloe album.
Nice.
Um, man, man, shout out to shout out to her, um, for making for made a second album. People talked a lot of junk about her first album. And I'm
Mm.
like, dude, it's her first solo album. Go back and listen to Beyonce's first solo album. Go back and listen to a lot of artists' first solo album. And then, and I'm talking about solo, where it's not with her sister, it's not with a group, it's just that person. Go back. People don't even realize that Michael Jackson, prior to Off the Wall, had like 4 other albums, like solo albums.
Mm-hmm.
Like he did not find his sound as a solo artist for about 3 albums. So
Mm.
like, so like that's the reason why I was excited that she was not afraid to. She didn't listen to the naysayers or the people talking online. She went and made a dope album. It is so good, and and it's her sophomore album, and everybody's like, "Oh, this is a really good album," and I'm like, "Yeah, she's smart enough not to listen to y'all." And and she came back out. She was like, "I'm not touring for this album. This is for y'all to enjoy." And she knocked it out the park. That's a good sophomore album. That
Mm.
is, it's a good. She did her thing on it, and vocally and sonically, probably one of the better produced albums that have come out recently from like the R&B pop world. So
That sounds amazing. And just going back, looking at the new K Tronada album, I'm looking at all the features. I'm like, these are all my people on these features. You're
mhm.
right. Katra doesn't miss. I want to be real clear. K Tronada does not miss. There is a 2013 Boiler Room on YouTube, Montreal, that I go back to every so often again. When I need to pick me up and you want to talk about some good energy and just whether you want to just clean around the house or light your something or smoke your something or drink your something, it is one of the things to play. I'm looking at this timeless track listing. Everybody from Don Tolliver to Deron Bernard to Rochelle Jordan and Pink Pantheress, Anderson Paak, Childish Gambino, Thundercat, Mariah the Scientist, who's one of the newer artists that I listen to, and Pink Pantheress,
Mhm.
and Dawn Richard. Come on, grandmother diva. Well, not
I
grand.
love
She
Dawn.
is grand as in the being. Okay. Yes. Love me some. It's
Her
my playlist.
her solo stuff has been fire.
I listen to all her solo stuff. I all them nights, Dawn was my soundtrack walking them streets in Shanghai.
Like, man, she can, dude. Dawn Rushard is so good that like she is good at setting atmosphere.
Yes.
like it is her music really does transport you to a specific setting, and she has such a rich tone that's very unique to her
Hmm.
that like not a lot of people can sound like her. I think she's really dope. But yeah, her and Kate Renata snap.
That sounds so good. I can't wait to listen.
um so yeah, so our next uh our next segment, our next segment is, and our last segment is, we always end the show with um our playlist that we created, and the theme of our playlist is um it, it's called glass mirrored rooms, and I put glass room, mirrored rooms and disco balls. Gotta edit the name of it, but so yeah, it's up here on screen, and we got your first pick, which is Devotion by 10 City. So tell us a little bit about that.
Um, this is a old school. Well, first of all, when KB gave me the prompt, mirrored rooms and disco balls, I didn't want to just hit the nail on the head. And what
Hmm.
I wound up doing was essentially creating a playlist of songs alone. If it was my little EP, a list alone, is disco for people who don't like disco.
Hmm.
Starting off with 10 City, we're taking you to 1989. And yes, that's a little bit of ways off from what you think is the end of disco. But the voice that guides this track is the spirit and the energy of disco. The track, the foundation of the track, off of the album Foundation from 10 City, with one of the coolest album art covers I've seen, incorporating these brothers' beautiful chocolate faces into a Chicago landmark. Um, Marshall Jefferson, classic house producer. This is his backing track. The voice, Byron Stingley, male soprano. And Byron is tall and chocolatey. But that male soprano, baby, when he sings those first lyrics, any man will try to take you to bed. They don't care what's in your head. I
Yeah,
should have been listening to that shit hard, but I wasn't listening to it. I was listening to it, but I wasn't listening to it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Byron was singing that song.
yeah,
Okay? He sings the booty off of this song. I spend most of my time listening to it saying, "Sing, Byron," because he truly is a Devo. He almost over sings it at the end, telling, "I want to give you Devo, all the O's after devotion. He want to give it to you. He's serious.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
serious with it." He said he be that dude, and with other women, I swear I'll never cheat. But a couch, maybe. I don't know. Cushions. Seeing cushion's big enough, maybe
yeah,
cheat on that. But Byron said he was gonna be a good man.
yeah.
Um, and truly, they don't put songs out like this anymore with the vamp out at the end. They
Yeah,
don't
I
put that.
listened to this because I have never heard of this, and then I was like, "Oh, this is definitely going on my liked list." But also, that is this that is definitely, it gives you, it's a good groove, but you're right. It's definitely a pick for people who do not like disco at all.
Because this is obviously they are some of the pioneers of house music.
Hmm.
They're coming up in the mid to late 80s. They don't necessarily want to hear their parents disco.
Yeah, that's what I was
They're
about to say.
they're going to Guitar Center or they're going to Radio Shack or they're going to wherever and getting the 808 and getting the 909 and changing the sound for themselves with house music.
Yeah,
And so that's why I wanted to put this song as one of those bridges between old school house music. I'm sorry, between the old school disco and today's
no,
house
the
music.
house music. Yeah, and the other thing is like, um, yeah, there's this pushback about how like disco was like corny, or it was this, like I'll go on record and say I love disco music. I love, um because there is a marrying it, despite what the pushback on disco. And the only reason why there was a pushback on disco was like people were just hopping on trends. You
Mhm.
know, disco to me was the early stages of obviously a different type of electronic music. The infusion of like synth, pop, strong vocals, um, orchestration, um, big production. Uh, there's a piece of, but in a lot of that, there's like the purpose of disco, like, and where it came from is like the idea of like liberation and freedom and fun and joy and release in these spaces where black, brown, queer people were chilling. That's where disco to me kind of started. And so like the backlash of disco once it became like mainstream and corporatized and corny is, like it happens to every genre, but I don't think a genre has ever been kicked in the stomach the way that disco was. And to be quite
Mhm.
honest, it ended up disparaging a lot of black artists to me, um, because of what it represented. You get what I'm saying? Like how
Yeah.
it was dismissed as like this artistic when it's like if you go back and listen to disco, good disco, like it wasn't like Kiss just hopping on a disco wave because it's popular. Or
Right.
you know what I'm saying? Like people who were really into that genre of music and where it came from and how it was able to evolve into dance music, into house, into all of that. The reason why it evolved is because it's even though the outside bypassed it, mainstream culture bypassed it, those who loved it still respected it for what it was. It still remained popular in queer spaces. Disco didn't die in queer spaces where
Mhm.
it originated. You get what I'm saying? So like
Absolutely.
I, that the dismissal of this art form, this genre that was vital to many scenes and all of that type of stuff gets bashed on because rockers are like, oh, this sucks. Oh, this is lame. Oh, this is the. And then the irony of all of that is that the rock that comes in after that gets stomped out by another form of rock, grunge.
Right.
So it's a wild, wild time. So I preface my choice with your non like disco focused stuff with I took it as like what would be the disco of today, because like there's so many artists. I'm like, this is disco music, but like they're not calling it disco music anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like it's and so I was very on the nose, is what I'm saying. Um, and my first pick was "Take My Breath" by The Weeknd, and the reason why I chose that is like um, it was either between that and "Sacrifice," and I was like, Sacrifice to me leans more into the traditional kind of disco dance where you have the live instrumentation along with the electronic components along with the orchestration. But Take My Breath has that. Well, he's using Daft Punk synth that they gave to him, and um, it's pulsating, and it is it makes you want to dance, but there's a little bit of darkness to it, but it's still like fun. And um and yeah, to me, if there was disco today, I think this is a type of song that would be a part of the reconfiguration of what disco looks like now, which is like kind of poppier dance music. Now we just call it pop. But there,
Right.
Dua Lipa to me does disco sometimes, where it's like this is clearly a disco style. So the first one is The Weeknd, "Take My Breath." That was my first one, and that album is to me didn't get he didn't I don't know what happened there, but that album to me just got kind of swept under the rug. I don't know why, but it's a really good album.
I thought the flourishes and nods to the past were very well done. As
Hmm.
always, everything he touches production wise is so crisp. Uh,
Hmm.
and I gotta, that's one of the things I've always loved about him and his artistry.
Hmm.
Uh, but that's an excellent choice. Because as soon as you said that, I could just hear him saying, shouting, "Take
Yeah.
my breath," and like, yeah, that's a bop. That gets your
Yeah.
blood flowing. You
Yeah.
know, you in for either a high energy action adventure movie trailer, or uh, whenever you hear that, or something. You know, like it's a
Yeah.
great song. It's a really good choice.
What's your second one?
Second one, I am gonna go for. We started at 89. I'm going to go back to 80. 1980 is the theme of my music today. It's before me. Something
Hmm.
that the world was something special in 1980 because all this good music was coming out of the Iran Contra or something like what was messed up back then. Um, I'm going to go with Searching by Change. If you don't know the song by name, if we played it, you would immediately either start thinking GTA
Hmm.
or just straight up Luther Vandross,
So what?
because that's how most people probably search YouTube for this song, Luther Vandross searching.
Yeah.
But it is a long play. When we talk about they don't make songs like this anymore, it is a
They,
long play. It is 8 minutes long, and it is a journey, a 5 verse journey that will take you and Luther on a fun-filled night out in the coals, searching for a chance to dance. He don't want romance. He just want a chance to dance. Um, and again, this is another one where if you want to unwind, if you want to pull up something to sip on, something to smoke on, turn this on. Grab your thing and shake your tail. Okay, it is a great song. Um, and it allows you to get as lost as Luther in these lyrics. One of the first times I heard this song, I had to be 7 or 8, and I'm thinking, this is a hell of a night, ain't it, Ma? Like, this is fun. This sounds like a good night, huh? I can't wait till I grow up and have some nights like this. And I did. And so when
hmm.
I hear this song now and remember my crazy nights,
Hmm.
right? So I love it. They really don't make epics like this anymore. And
They don't.
the Italo disco influence, because of course change has its hand with some of the, just like we do today, where we outsource some of this great music or some of these great parts of these pop masterpieces from Italian writers or Swedish writers and
Hmm.
producers and all that. That driving bass line
Hmm.
is used in so much stuff. Let that be your background for everything.
Yeah. It really.
Let it
I
be
was
your
gonna say
background
that.
for driving or
Yeah.
running, or get making love, doing something. You get on down to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, y'all, the link to this um playlist is actually in the chat to Spotify. So, and then I'll make a YouTube playlist of these songs too,
For sure.
so that y'all can like, because we'll get people to watch after we're done streaming. So like, you'll be able to go and listen to this playlist, and I put them, you know, alternating. So yeah, Luther
Excellent.
almost ended up on my playlist, and I had to boot one of his songs. I had to boot his song.
Nice.
Um, my next pick is Disco Yes by Tom Misch and Papi Ujuda.
Mhm.
Um, I gotta keep it real. I don't know shit about Tom Misch or who was featuring. I just know that song bang. I love that song, and that was it. I was like, what songs? What songs are modern disco that I rock with? And it is what. And I'm gonna keep it brief. I love disco because, like I said earlier, it uses like I love Chic.
Mhm.
I love Nile Rodgers imprint on disco as a
Absolutely.
guitar player. Like like Nile Rodgers is so good. His guitar tone is so good that people are still asking him to come play.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Um, like you know, Get Lucky. That was Nile Rodgers. It's like that's I love the mirroring of instrumentation, live instrumentation, and the electronic component. But the other component that I love about disco that kind of is not is not prevalent in dance music at all now, really, is the orchestration. And so this song does incorporate a lot of all of those components that I really like. Once again, I don't know shit about the artist. Sometimes it's just purely I'm like I like this song, and then I'll put on the album that song was on. I was like, all right, what do I like from this album? What do I want to like and keep, and and that whole album. The name of that album is what is it called again? Geography is really good. That's a really you could literally push play and
Yeah.
and, and just vibe out. I don't know if you know Tom Mish, but
Yep. Tom Misch is to me, a badass guitarist who borrows his sound heavily from George Benson. And I think it's kind of dope as a young white cat out of London to have that kind of grasp and that kind of mastery of the jazz sound. He's dope, and he's a really good producer too. I like a lot of the work that he does on his collaborations with other artists, but his solo work is good too. So Tom Misch is one to check out, and Disco Yes is one of them bops. I skipped a track. I was trying to go in order, but I skipped a little bit. And if y'all are looking at our list, go you can hear the preview on our list, but go find the full album by Maloko. You Like My Tight Sweater, I think that's the name of it. Sorry. But the song is Sing It Back. Summer 1998. Okay. Rasheen Murphy, who basically sounds like millennial Dusty Springfield, absolutely killing on this song.
mhm.
Uh Mirrored rooms and disco balls. I immediately imagined her in this video wearing this disco ball mirrored dress and singing the song Sing It Back with such aplomb. It's a very funky song. She puts you in the mind of, and she's a husky voice diva. She's an alto voice diva.
Mhm.
So, and I'm grateful that in her third act now, she's starting to get a lot of her flowers. Because while Kylie and the girlies were doing it, Rasheen was holding it down from 98 to 2003 with Maloko, and then broke out on her own when her solo album came out in 2006, I believe. But she is
Mhm.
definitely the diva we need, especially for these times. And real ones been new. Again, us
I'm
kids
not a
that was
real
in
one.
the club and the
Really
disco,
not.
we knew about Rasheen Murphy and them a long time ago. So yeah.
I did
Um,
not know until you sent that over. I'm gonna be honest with you. I had never listened before.
oh
See,
my
this is the great thing about this show. I get to get new stuff too. You know what I'm saying? Like had never listened to that. Had never in I like and I knew like the Kylie Minogues and all of that type of stuff, but I had never dug deep enough to get to Maloko, you know?
one of my best friends, a sister from Elgin, put me
Mm,
on.
mm,
So I'm grateful. But yeah, Rasheen's dope, and she's also a fashion icon. So check her out, but check that song out. It,
cool.
it's an epic. It's a classic.
Um my next song is Problems by Jungle. And that man, that song makes me want to throw a decade party. And the decade is
Oh,
and it makes me want like you gotta oh my god, and they did what I love. Once again they incorporated the lushness of the orchestration at the end, because what
mhm.
the end of that song sounds like you should be on a lit up dance floor, like the ground is lit up and you're doing the hustle with the finest motherfucker you've ever met in your entire life. Like it
Oh
is
yeah.
the end of it and the hand claps that go into it, and it's such a great. song, it brings me so much joy every time I hear it. Every time that song plays, I run it back at least a few times. Like, I'm telling you, if you ever listen to Jungle, I've been trying to find. I want to see them live. They just did because they don't do a lot of stateside stuff.
Yeah.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, they did an after show after Lollapalooza.
Nice.
Like, one, you know how when artists will do like, they're on one of the stages, and then that evening they're like, well, since we already did our stuff, let's go do a late show somewhere at another low key spot. That's
Yeah.
what they did. And
That's
so,
awesome.
yeah, and the only thing was that I wasn't able to go to it, and I think that was like the only thing that they had really stateside. I think they're on like festivals, but they're not actually doing like touring stateside. And so my goofy ass, because it was like, do you want to see more of Jungle in the States? Then sign up for the newsletter. So I did, so I could like, so that they could see that like people stateside want them to tour and be here, because they tour everywhere but here,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But that's how a lot of the artists that I like, especially in this realm, especially in the dance, like this type of stuff, they do not do a lot of stateside touring, unfortunately. So
Yeah, so definitely, if you guys love bands like we love, help them stay afloat. They indie artists. They don't get all the backing and support of these big mega corporations and these big artists at the mainstream. So make sure you
support
show some support by signing up for things like that. It's simple, but it helps them know, hey, this is a dot on the map that we might need to check out.
yeah.
Because otherwise, we wind up getting stuck having to pay hundreds of dollars to go fly someplace just to
Hmm.
go see somebody that only hits him maybe once every blue moon.
Yeah, like you know what's even more wild about that? Like, you could even be a big artist. Like, I was looking at for Lenny Kravitz tickets, because I was like, oh, he was like, oh, I'm announcing a tour, and I'm like, dope. Let me go look, and it was all world. There was no U.S. dates on it. It was all. It was like Brazil, Peru, Australia, Europe. I was just scrolling through shit trying. I was like, there is no U.S. date.
That's the other thing. Some of these artists like Lenny be big enough and say, I'm gonna go perform where I want to go vacation. And then they force us to have to go empty out our 401ks and go follow their ass and make a vacation out of that. And
Yeah,
then we gotta take a vacation from that. So
yeah,
it's, you know, come on.
yeah. So that was my third pick.
That's awesome. My next pick. My next pick is from one of the great conscious philosophers of our times who explores the paradoxes of a bad night in LA. Y'all give it up for Tame Impala, Borderline, 2019, the newest cut on my list. But come on, Kevin Parker is a freaking musical genius.
Yeah.
He tosses in some of the well-known, musical cliches that we know from disco. The thing, the jangly guitar or
Mhm.
the jangly keys and the kind of brassier sounds. But Kevin's got this thing where he makes these sonically dazzling walls of sound that fit,
Mhm.
and they're modern and they're layered perfectly. And
That was
so
about
it's
to
a
say
fun
his
sonic
layering is sick.
maximalism. Hmm?
Yeah, his layering is sick. Like, he can make it sound not heavy. Have you ever listened to like production, and like, people give a lot of credit to the one buddy with the fro that killed what was his name from the Wall of Sound? What was Buddy's name?
Phil Spector?
Yes, they give a lot of credit to Phil Spector for his Wall of Sound or whatever. But sometimes I was like, that was totally unnecessary. Like, eventually, some of the layering gets so murky that it doesn't sound as crisp. I don't know how the hell he does that with Tame Impala, but like, you can clearly tell that it's layered, but it is so incredibly clean that it
Yeah.
doesn't sound clunky. Nothing is overshadowing anything. Everything is just completely melting together. And it's like that takes a lot of skill to be
Yeah.
able to merge all of those components, you know?
It is a lot of skill, and I had a little brain fart when I'm saying guitar slash piano, but harpsichord opening,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
very distinct harpsichord melodic opener. But then at the same time, he'll juxtapose that kind of, I don't know what woodwind it is, and if it necessarily shares the same name as the city. But I think you can press a button on a Casio or Fruity Loops or myriad of different things that says Kyoto, and it'll make
mhm,
that sound,
yeah,
that kind
yeah,
of woodwindy or Japanese type sound. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Somehow he makes this thing work.
Mhm.
It hits us a couple of times throughout the song, and it's like, man, Kevin, we are on Sunset Strip, and we probably shouldn't have smoked that shit. Like, it's a fun song, but the one existential line that he says over and over again toward the end of the song in his alleged stream of conscious is, "Will I be known and loved?" He says it's stream of consciousness. I say it's gospel.
Yeah.
Come on, good stuff. But he just knows how to do it right. He just knows how to do it.
And then my next one is this one is if this is not this is the most on the nose current disco it could ever be. Jesse Ware, Free Yourself. It is a most that is if you were to transport a a chart topping disco song from 1976, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And you were like, what would that sound like in current day? It would be Jesse Ware, Free Yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clearly an ode to that. Um, it's but it had this is the other thing I love about disco. Disco has amazing singers, and
Yeah.
Jesse Ware's vocals on this are phenomenal,
That girl can sing.
phenomenal, phenomenal.
She can
And
sing.
yeah, and so like the the energy of it, the the aggressive lyrics, the feel of that, like the freedom that comes. That's the thing that I think was lost with the idea of disco is that this is this is freeing. It's freeing music. Like these
Mm-hmm.
singers are singing to like I don't mean to be dramatic, but they're the singers were gospel singers. Like they could sing, dude. Like they could
Yeah.
sing. Like they and what they were singing, if you listen to the lyrics of what they're saying, they're not just saying like dancing fucking, dance. Not that's not what it was about. And so like this is the reason why I love this song is and is to me it's like that modern disco that I was talking about earlier. It's just she really nailed the other side of disco that got drowned out once again by the corporatization of it, of the idea of this being this liberating music for people. So I just love the message of that song and the energy behind it and how aggressively it is disco. You know.
I have heard that track, and I have heard the duet she did with Rasheen Murphy. She did
Mhm.
"Freak Me Now" with Rasheen. That's another fun song on that album. Jessie is a beast. That girl can really sing, and that is a fun album. So thank you
Yo,
for
dude, that
reminding me
just
about that.
clicked.
I'm gonna go back deep in it now.
Dude, why did that just click that that's the shorty from Maloko?
Yeah. Hmm.
When you were saying it, I was like, like,
I'm
and
going back and forth just
then,
calling her name out because Moloko disbanded after their 2003 album, and it's just been her kicking butt solo since.
but I know what song you're talking about with Jessie Ware because I listened to Jessie Ware, and then it just now when you're like, oh yeah, she did a song with, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is the same. It's the same thing. Like I totally just went over my head that yeah, I'll have to go check out more of my logo and Rasheen's solo stuff because yeah, that song is fire.
Absolutely. My next one, Back to 1980. Hmm. Daft Punk did they big one.
Mm-hmm.
Daft Punk definitely did they big one in 1997 when they came out with Homework. But years before that, they were just all up in the French clubs playing all kinds of house music.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the songs that they played that was so dope that everybody fell in love with worldwide, a little repetitive. I mean, a lot repetitive. Robot Rock. Anybody know that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's basically copy and paste from Breakwater, Release the
Mm-hmm.
Beast, which is a massive song on its own. This song has handlebar mustache, chops, and bad credit. This song slaps. This song is a meaty morsel. It
This is
funks.
yeah. This is a classic that I don't think people know who the artist is.
It's
I
a
think
song with a barrel chest. It's meaty.
it's heavy.
It benches 450 and then smokes
Yeah,
a black and mild.
yeah. It is it's but yeah, it's hearty. It is hearty. It's a buffet.
And
It's
if you
hearty.
don't start boogieing once it start, I don't know what's wrong with you. But Release the Beast is definitely one of them songs I want to hear in a mirrored room with some disco balls going on.
I feel like a lot of people have referenced that song though.
It's
Like
just monumental.
yeah, like if we keep saying this, but like if we wouldn't get like in trouble on YouTube, then I would incorporate like you hearing it. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Um, but like go the playlist is in, and now once again I'll do it on YouTube. A lot of this stuff, once you hear it, especially the stuff that Erica pulled, you'll be like, oh, I feel like somebody sampled. They probably did. They either sampled it or heard a piece of it and was like, oh, that's a dope bass line. Because a lot of those older songs, their bass lines are killer. So like,
Absolutely.
and or they're, you know what I'm saying? So like a lot of it you probably have heard pieces of it or a little or something similar to it and not realize that that's the influence or that's the, you know, the source for it.
Hmm.
Sorry I talked over
No, it's all good.
you. My last one is on channel Trey and it's Top Down. I found this buddy. I wanted to incorporate something that was like disco and hip hop that had like more dance and had like a little bit of hip hop
Yeah.
um, feel to it. This dude is really good at it. I
Yeah.
found him on a jungle song, to be quite honest, and I was like, dude, Buddy is sliding. Let me
Hey.
let me go see what else he doing. Um, and so like I went and listened, and yeah, Top Down is fire. Like it is such a groove. It's kind of, you know, funny. He's very he knows how to ride a good dance beat, and so yeah, I wanted to incorporate something that's a little bit like if we're doing modern disco, I wanted to incorporate some hip hop into it. So
Yeah, Channel Trey is definitely dope and one to watch. He does a lot of cool collabs with similarly veined artists that are young, black, indie, and influenced by so much. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye on him. And my last choice was originally just going to be a bonus track. It was going to be an also ran, but when I am feeling low or feeling like, oh man, I don't feel lovable, I just got off a stage and bombed. Damn it. Don't nobody love me. Like, I gotta get it together. What am I gonna do? Or seriously, if you've had some heartbreak and you just don't know how to bounce back from it and you're looking for a way to overcome it, turn on this song.
mhm.
Turn it on. I don't turn it on. Maloko forevermore. Very first words this lady sings, if I drown in a sea of devotion, just a stone left unturned, will we receive without ever asking? She just asked these questions. Will I
Yeah,
be loved? And she goes in deep and she calls, she yearns for it. And by the end of it, you believe she gonna find that love too. And we all gonna find that love by the end of that song. It is a triumphant song. I want you to have real triumph in your bedroom tonight. I want you to have real triumph in your living room. If you having bad, you going down bad, your heart broken, somebody ain't treating you right, ain't validating you, ain't helping you out, ain't supporting you, ain't showing you that love. You go ahead and you turn this on and you let them know I'm gonna find me somebody. Even though I go on these apps and it look like there ain't nobody to love me, I'm gonna find me somebody.
Hey, G. Hey, one of our homies posted, "Oh, some of y'all mad, y'all single." I said, "No, the hell, I'm not. I, I'm not. I'm not sad that I'm not single. I am very happily engaged, and I'll tell you what, I'm glad I'm not on the apps, G. I'm glad because I would be. That would be my anthem every fucking weekend. No lie. They'd be like that.
Okay. And with that beat, first of all, the beat starts in. This is some deep.
Have you ever
dark,
cried
heavy
and
beats.
danced hard at the same time? That's exactly. But like, hey, shit, right there.
In the dance club, singing to Robin, dancing on my own, like,
Oh,
I'm in
you
the
bring up the
corner,
Robin.
nobody sees me. Oh,
Brought out the Robin, G. Wow.
I've been there. I've been there. Them lonely nights cruising, going to Vision and Excalibur in the Viagra Triangle, sober as hell, looking for a sugar daddy because these college loans is having. Come on, you gotta find me somebody.
You got find somebody.
Okay, find you somebody. This life can be endless. Ain't nobody out there to love me. No, it's somebody out there to love me. Get that song in your life. Get it in your system. It'll feel
Get it
good.
in your system, y'all. And this has been our first stream. We did it. We did it. The Baseline Chronicles will, you know what I'm saying? Make
We
sure.
did it, and we did it better than that Australian woman that was aggressively doing yoga.
Bro. Hey, what you doing after this?
I gotta run to the stove.
I was gonna say you could hop on our Olympic recap with Jeff in Excel, but but we about to roast people. That's all we doing is roasting the Olympics. But
if I didn't have to run to the stove, I would. Can I watch?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be streaming on my channel.
Okay.
Yeah.
On your channel. Okay, on your channel. Cool.
KB Marion TV. And the plus side is you know, what I'll do is I'll put the link if you want to chime in. If you get back from the store or something you want to chime in, you can. I'll put the link in the chat. So if you want to hop on, you can.
I will. And please talk about aggressive yoga. Please roast
the hell we will. That's first up on the docket, probably. That and Jason Tatum, according to Jeff. So yeah. Hey, G, what do you got? What do you got coming up, and where can everybody find you?
After this show, after I come back from the stove to get my feel good, I'm gonna do a KO comedy because people still actually do virtual comedy.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna work some stuff out, hosted by the great Casey McNeil. Tune in to KO Comedy, 9:00 Central Time, 7:00 Pacific. And speaking of Pacific, next Sunday, I'm gonna be on Pacific Time at Laugh Factory Hollywood for Chocolate Sundays. First impression spot. Your girl's gonna give the best 3 minutes of her life. And baby, I tested it out on one of 3 shows this weekend. And what you got going on, KB?
Follow KB Marion at KB Marion Comedy on Instagram. I am at the Comedy Vault this week hosting, which will be a lot of fun. And we both are co-producers on Still Not Friday. That is every Thursday at Two Brothers Roundhouse in Aurora. So make sure y'all check that out. It's a show that is free 99. So come on through. And yeah, that's what I got going on. And the other thing is like tune into the Baseline Chronicles. Let's see, we got a couple of viewers in now. Tell your friends. We'll make sure we share and all that good stuff. And this has been a good one. We holler at you. The playlist is up. Enjoy. Hey, vibe out tonight. It's a good playlist, low key. So get it, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks.
Peace.
Holla.